Hello everyone, this is Chapter 14, Part 1. In this video, we will be creating the 4 necessary parts to create the assembly for the rest of Chapter 14. The parts we will be making are the collar, which is shown on page 14-9, the bearing and the base plate, which are on page 14-11, and the cap screw, which is shown on page 14-12. We will start with the collar right now, so I will open up a new part. So we're going to open the part. We're going to make sure that the part is in inches. And we're going to draw, I'm just going to draw the right plane. I'm going to do a small revolve. That way I just have one feature to worry about. Added an extra line there, just deleted it. And now I'm just dimensioning. I put the construction line at the bottom again so that I could dimension all of these off of the diameter. Make sure that you click below the center line, otherwise it will go off of the radius. And I'm just making sure that that's coincident. That way it can't slide horizontally. Now that it's fully defined, I'll revolve it and add a chamfer, which is just going to be a 1/16 chamfer on those two lines. And once that's done, the part's finished. Next up is going to be the bearing. And again, make sure that you change the units to inches. For this, I'm going to start on the top plane. And I'm just going to draw a few circles because we can see that it's mainly just circles connected by lines. And now I'm going to add the lines. And it's very important what the relations that are added in are going to be very important. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure that each of these straight line segments is tangent to both circles it's connected to. If it's not, then once we put the dimensions in, it won't be fully defined. Now I'm making them all horizontal and equal with each other. That way the sketch is completely symmetrical. And now once I have all the relations in, now I can start dimensioning the various specifics. Adding the hole in the center. Now I'm going to trim these circles. That way I can dimension them as a radius, which is what it's given to us as. And now that we have a fully defined sketch, we can extrude it 1/2 of an inch. Next up is creating the rest of the circular boss. Now as you can see, the dimensions didn't come in when I click the geometry, so I'm manually making sure that the circles I put in are equal to the circular edges that they are coincident to. Now I am doing a 2-inch offset from the bottom face to make sure that I use the same dimension that's in the drawing. I could just as easily have extruded it blind, 1.5 inches, but this way I'm using the dimensions from the drawing. And next is going to be the circular cut. And last but not least, a hole wizard. We will be doing a customized counterbore hole, and you can see you can just change the diameter, counterbore diameter, counterbore depth to be the appropriate dimensions, as you can see in the hole call out on page 14-11. Once we have all those dimensions, we can simply go to positions and make sure that we put them at the center of those two arcs. And the last thing we need to do is we need to add the side hole. Now for this, rather than adding a plane or doing it off of the top or right plane, what we're going to do is we're actually going to show you a 3D sketch in Positions in Hole Wizard. So when I choose Positions, I can click anywhere on that surface. The problem with that is there's no guarantee, as you can see, that it could be in the plane. So if we put that as a long X to the origin, it goes in the wrong spot. So we're going to add a center line, and now we're going to dimension along this center line to make sure that it's completely vertical. It's still blue, and that's because what we need to do after we put in the dimension is we need to make sure that the one endpoint is along the z-axis of the origin. Then we just do a simple up to next, and there we have our part. Now we can save it. And next up is the bearing plate. So I'm going to do this on the front plane, and then start laying out the sketch. I'm putting in equal relations, that way the sketch comes out symmetrical without having to repeat dimensions. And you can see that I have not turned it into inches, so I'm going to turn it into inches and then restart editing the sketch. I'm going to put the 3.5 in, the 2.5 in, that way it is centered on the origin. And then the last dimension is just a 7-inch total length. I'm going to add the fillets. Extrude 3 inches from the midplane. And now I'm going to use Hole Wizard to add the 1/2-inch holes on the tabs. I'm going to do through all, and I'm going to look at the view from the side and then place the holes like so. And now I'm going to be dimension the holes, making sure that they are horizontal and vertical with respect to each other. Again, using the minimum number of necessary dimensions. So horizontal, vertical, vertical, and horizontal. Next is going to be the large hole in the center. It's 1 3/4 inches through all. And then last but not least is a 3/8 by 24-inch threaded hole. That's going to be through all, and it's going to be horizontal with the origin, and they'll be off by 1 3/4 inches. Whoops, dragged the dimension there a little bit. And that's the base plate. Saved it. Next up is the cap screw. Cap screw is a somewhat more complicated sketch, but shouldn't take that long. I'm going to start by drawing the profile at the bottom of page 14-12. Now, as you can see, I just put in a instance of tangency, so I'm deleting that relation. It's always important to keep an eye on relations that you accidentally add. Forgot to change it into inches. Now I'm adding dimensions. And I'm going to add a center line because many of these dimensions are off of a diameter, and I want to make sure that they stay off of a diameter instead of off of a radius. Still need a few more dimensions left. If you look carefully at the drawings, not all the dimensions are in the profile, but you need to look at the picture above it. There's one dimension from the tipmost point to the bottom of the cap. And now what I can do is I need to add a implied tangency with the to vertical with the domed head. For some reason, there isn't an apparent reason why this would be blue, so what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to delete it. Sometimes when you do a complicated sketch, it doesn't turn black when it should. In those cases, it's always best to restart because you never know if the sketch is blue, the computer is misunderstanding something, and you don't want the computer to misunderstand. So now I revolved that around, and now all I have to do is add the cut. So I simply sketched on the front plane, and now took the convert entities on that hole that was created, that was revolved around, and made a box and extruded it both sides, cutted it both sides to create the cut. Next is a chamfer, 1/32, and now I'm going to insert a cosmetic thread. And the cosmetic thread is not going to change the physical geometry of the part, but it's going to change the appearance somewhat. To do this, I'm going to go to Insert, Annotations, Cosmetic Thread. I'm going to select the beginning edge of the thread, and this is going to be a ANSI inch thread, 3/8 by 24, and it's going to be a blind thread that goes 1/2 inch distance. Next, obviously, we can't see the thread other than an additional line. So in order to see the thread, we're going to go into Tools, and we're going to go to Options, Document Properties, and we're going to go to Detailing, and make sure that Shaded Cosmetic Threads is checked. Now you can see the shade, and now the part's done. And that's going to be all. That's going to be it for this video. In the next video, we will be using these 4 parts and assembling them.